Welcome back, English 1102 friends. This is another video. This video is going to be an introduction to Schindler's List and to all the information that you need about Schindler's List. There will be questions about Schindler's List on the final exam, and exam 6 is exclusively about Schindler's List and has all of the topics that it asks you about. The topics for essay number 6 are the only choice is Schindler's List. There's a choice of topics. And so what I want to do today is show you that choice of topics, show you how to go into the library's page on the GHC homepage and access the movie, go over the topics with you, and then give you some introduction and some context. Over the years that I've taught this movie, students have had a variety of questions, but they've often been the same question in it. So I'm going to try to answer all of those questions for you and help give you some guidance, because this is a big movie. It's like 3 hours long. It's complicated. It's based on historical figures, so you need to know a little bit of historical context. I'm going to try to give you all of that here in this introductory video. The first thing I want you to see is this is under, if you go under reading links and response topics and click on Schindler's List, down here at the bottom, it's got the exam. The exam is also under syllabus and exams, exam number 6. You click on that, and it will take you to the 4 exam topics. And exam number 6 asks you select one of the following topics and use it to write a paper, approximately 600 words, a little bit longer than the other short essays that we've written this semester. But you have this 3-hour movie to pull from, so you've got a big chunk of information to use as you write your paper. Be sure to include an original title. Don't steal the title of the movie. Don't make the title of your paper Schindler's List. Make it more specific to whatever topic you choose, as well as a clear thesis or purpose statement in the first paragraph, so that in the first paragraph you make a clear statement about what you're going to prove about the movie, or about some character in the movie, or about places in the movie. It's going to depend on what topic you pick. Body paragraphs that support and develop your thesis by using specific details, specific events, specific moments and evidence from the movie. This is due Tuesday, April 28th before noon. Depending on which class you're in, the due date might vary a little bit. If you're in my Tuesday and Thursday class, it should be April 28th. If you're in my Monday and Wednesday class, it might be a little earlier. So just check the syllabus and you'll know exactly when it's due. Please send your paper to me as an attachment, docx, no PDF, as we've talked about over and over this semester. On the day that this paper is due, this is all that's due, I'll be in Zoom and I'll be happy to help you with your paper. Whatever kind of help you need, whether you need just to have it checked over, you've got a draft and you want me to check over it, or if you've got specific questions about your thesis, or about if you've got enough details from the movie. The first topic asks you, this scene speaks very clearly to the kinds of meanings that particular sites and spaces have in this movie. One of the themes we've discussed this semester is sites and spaces, nature and settings, those kinds of things, and their various meanings. For this topic, select 2 or 3 of the spaces, the settings in this movie, and discuss their meanings in the film and how and why they acquire those meanings. Consider if those meanings change. You know, if a place means one thing at the beginning but something else at the end, like Schindler's factory, or like the ghetto, or something like that. Or if they remain the same throughout the movie. And if a space has different meaning for different people or different groups. You know, Schindler's apartment in Krakow. For the people that are thrown out of that apartment, it's the beginning of them having to live in the ghetto. For Schindler, it means he gets this nice apartment to live in, so they could have different meanings for different people. For Schindler's factory, for him, it means a place for him to make money. For the Jewish people that work there, it's a sort of refuge and escape for being out of the ghetto, or for being out of the concentration camp. The second topic, Oskar Schindler and Amon Gert are the 2 main characters in Schindler's List. Select one of them and analyze his character in the film. Consider questions such as if that character changes over the course of the movie, that's a static character. A character that changes is a dynamic character. A character that stays the same is a static character. The specific interactions that a character has with the Krakow Jews, the way that they interact with the Jewish people who are going through all the stuff that they're going through in the course of this movie. The most significant events in which that character is involved, the big choices they make, the big actions they are involved in, and the fate of that character at the end of the movie. You're free to make a value judgment about the character you choose: good person, bad person, hero, villain. But you must support that judgment with clear evidence, actions, examples, incidents from the movie. The third one, 12C, another theme that we have talked about this semester is work and labor, and the ways that work is valued and has meaning. Near the beginning of the movie, Schindler tells his wife he has 350 workers in his factory and that their purpose is to make money. Write an analysis of Schindler's work in the film and of how his ideas about how his purpose, his motivations, and his work goals change in the course of the movie. Think about the way that work, what work means to him, and what he is working for, and what his work goals are, and how they change over the course of the movie. The fourth one, Schindler tells his wife that what was missing in his previous business attempts, and that is the key ingredient to the success of the enamelware business, the Krakow business, is war. Schindler's List is set during World War II, starts in 1939 when the Nazis invade Poland, first place the Nazis attacked, and it goes all the way through until the end of World War II. But it shows very little, if any, actual combat or war. Write a paper that argues that Schindler's List is a war movie in spite of the absence of direct combat violence, those kinds of things, the army, the military, people fighting and bombing each other and shooting each other. That's not in this movie. Argue that it's a war movie even though it doesn't have direct war in it. So that gives you those 4 topic choices. The next thing that I want to show you is how you can watch the movie. Let me get this pulled up for you guys. If you go to the Highlands homepage right here, the first thing you need to do is click on Quick Links. Down here at the bottom right, last thing on the bottom right, you'll see Library. Click on that. Here on the library page, go to Videos and Images. And then you should be able to click right here, Feature Films at Swank. Click on that. The first time you click on it, you may have to log in. You'll just use, it'll say, it'll ask you if you're a student or faculty. Choose student, log in with your student ID and password. Should get you to this page. You can see Schindler's List right here. Click on it. There's the movie. You can just start watching, and you'll be ready to go. The last thing that I want to do, and the biggest, longest thing, unfortunately, is I want to give you some information about what's going on in this movie, what this movie is about. I've got a little list that I want to go over, as well as some notes that I'm going to share with you. Here are the notes that I'm going to share with you, and I'll get these posted in D2L pretty shortly. And although it says today, it'll be whatever day you watch the movie. And it tells you about what we've already gone over about Schindler's List. This is a movie from 1993, before most of y'all were born. It is often considered one of the 5 or 10 greatest American movies ever made. And you can decide if you like it or not. It might be the kind of movie that you guys are not used to. It is about a person named Oskar Schindler, who's a real life person, and his experiences during World War II in German-occupied Poland and the Sudetenland, what is now the Czech Republic, which is where he originally came from. He was from the Sudetenland. As I said, that's where he originally comes from, and you'll see once you get about 2/3 of the way of the movie, he moves his factory back to his hometown, away from Krakow in Poland. He was a member of the Nazi Party, but just politically, he was not in the military or anything like that, in the same way that we would be a Democrat or a Republican. He was a member of the Nazi Party, just politically. He was a businessman, and most of this movie is set in Krakow, one of the largest cities in Poland, this big industrial city. When the Nazis invade Poland and take over, he comes to Krakow, to Poland, to try to take advantage of that, since he's a member of the Nazi Party. During World War II, he owned 2 factories. You will see at the beginning of the movie him getting his first factory in Krakow, Poland. It has been seized by the Nazi government, and then they turn it over to him. And then near the end of the movie, when the Germans start to lose the war, he moves his factory and his workers from Poland back to his hometown of Brenlitz, which was in the Sudetenland. The first factory that he owns makes enamelware, so like pots and pans and dishes, mostly for the German military. So he's making this gigantic amount of dishes and cookware to supply the German military. The second factory, the factory in his hometown in Sudetenland, made shells, like bullets, ammunition, like war supplies. Both of those factories supplied the German military all through World War II. This film starts in 1939 when he arrives in Krakow. He starts making connections. One of the things he is really good at is making connections, becoming friends with people. He starts becoming friends with Nazi military officers, with Jewish businessmen, with black market smugglers. You will see him making connections with all these people. And through those connections, he is able to gain control of his first factory. At the same time that things are getting better and better for him, he gets a factory, he gets this nice apartment, he gets all these workers working for him essentially for free. At the same time that you see that, you see the situation for the Jewish people in Poland is just rapidly getting worse and worse. The first thing you see in this movie is them being made to register on this list, this government Nazi list. Then they are moved out of their homes and put in the ghetto. Then they are moved from the ghetto into this prison camp, which you will see. Pay attention to how, as things get better for him, they get worse for the Jewish people. There are three main characters in this movie. There's Oskar Schindler, and then his Jewish accountant, whose name is Itzhak Stern. You will see them meet pretty quickly as the movie gets going. Stern basically runs his business for most of the movie. And then the German commandant, Amon Gert, is a Nazi military officer. He runs the prison camp. About a third of the way through this movie, you'll see him come into this movie. The Nazi government brings him in to move the Jewish people out of the ghetto and into this prison camp and run the prison camp. We've talked about one of the topics asked you to think about the important places, the important spaces in this movie. The important settings is really what it's asking you. Some of those that you might think about are the Jewish ghetto, which you see in the beginning of the movie, and then they move all the people out of it about a third of the way through the movie. Schindler's factory, which is called the DEF. Platzau, the Jewish concentration camp that the Jewish people get moved to when they get moved out of the ghetto. The internment trains, you'll see that the last really half or third of this movie, there's a bunch of moving people around on trains and what it means to be on a train. You will, in the last third of the movie, see Auschwitz, the most infamous Nazi concentration camp. Over 1 million people died there. Some of the people who work for Schindler get sent there, but then get sent away from it eventually. Gert's house, which you see up on this hill looking down in the prison camp, and what it means to live there, to work there, to be there. Schindler's house, his apartment in Krakow, which is seized from a Jewish factory, and then his second factory in Brenlitz, the one that makes ammunition for the German military, and what it means to be there, and what it means to work there. There's also just some information that I want to go over to get you, as you start watching. This will mainly cover the first half, the first 90 minutes or so of the movie. As I said at the very beginning, you will see the Jewish people being forced to register once the Nazis take over. There's a bunch of this is a movie called Schindler's List. There's a bunch of getting put on lists, and people making lists, and people being forced to be on lists in this movie. Think about what it means to be on a list in this movie, because it means something different sometimes. You see Schindler come to Krakow. The first 15 or 20 minutes is him sort of socializing with these Nazi officers, becoming friendly with them. He will use those friendships later in the movie to get his factory, and then to get military contracts that will make him very rich because of his factory. You also see he meets Itzhak Stern, who helps him hire Jewish workers. At first, Stern doesn't want to help him, doesn't want to work with him, but eventually Stern sees helping Schindler as a way to help the Jewish people in the ghetto, and you will see that as he begins to hire people. He is in charge of hiring people for Schindler's factory, and you will see the way that he does that. He gets people to work in Schindler's factory who otherwise would not be able to work and would be being deported to concentration camps. But you see his relationship with Schindler as the movie changes too. At first, he doesn't like Schindler at all. Working for him is just a means to help save people. But then you'll see that change over the course of the movie. Schindler also, in the first hour, meets this other guy named Poldick Pfefferberg. They meet in a church originally. And Pfefferberg becomes his black market contact, his smuggler. You'll see that guy, Poldick, he escapes with his girlfriend from the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto. You'll see he and his girlfriend get married later in the movie. He's a kind of important character in the movie as well. You also will, about an hour into the movie, you will meet Schindler's wife. She doesn't originally come with him to Krakow, but then once he's got the factory up and going, she comes to see him, she asks him at one point if he wants her to stay in Krakow with him. You will see how he responds to that, and eventually she leaves Krakow, and you won't see her again till near the end of the movie. But their relationship and the way that he treats her sort of reflects on the kind of person he is, or the kind of person that the movie wants you to see him as in the beginning of the movie. There is also an important moment about an hour into the movie where Schindler saves Itzhak Stern, his accountant, from being deported on the train. Stern forgets his work permit. He's going to be sent off to a concentration camp, and Schindler saves him from being deported. But the conversation they have about that and about why Schindler does it, again, teaches you a lot about the kind of person he is in the first sort of third of the movie. You will also, once you get about an hour in, you will meet Amon Gert, the last main character, this German Nazi military officer. He helps to build Platzau, which is the prison camp, the concentration camp, and then he runs that camp, and you see him running it. Really, the middle third of the movie, the second hour, is as much as anything about him meeting Schindler, but also him running the camp. You will see Schindler loses all of his workers. They are all taken from the ghetto and put into the camp, and Schindler has to buy them back from Gert. He has to continuously every month bribe Gert to have his workers not be in that camp and to have them instead living and working in his factory. So you'll see that the first time that they meet. One of the ways to watch this movie is to watch Schindler's relationship with Gert and how it goes from getting access to his workers and keeping his factory going and making money to he has a very different goal in their later interactions, especially when he pays Gert to have his workers and to move them from the first factory to the second factory in Czechoslovakia. That's probably enough information to get you going and maybe to get you through the first 2 hours of Schindler's List. We'll talk about this on a Zoom meeting when the time comes, and if you have questions between now and then, I'll be happy to answer them. But I hope that's useful to you and helpful to you as you watch this movie. Like I said, it's a complicated movie. It sort of expects you to know some historical context, and hopefully I've given you that context here. But again, if you've got questions, be in touch with me. And I'm looking forward to hearing what y'all think of this movie and to reading your papers about it. Thank y'all for your time. Thank y'all for listening and watching.